Welcome along to the Special Stage Rally podcast. My name is Luke Whitten, and this week on the pod we have none other than 2014 Australian champion Scott Pedder as our guest. Scott's returning to the Australian Rally Championship this weekend aboard a Skoda Fabia R5, and he's looking to get near the top of the leaderboard. We ask him, is he going to chase for the overall win? He's seated fourth this weekend, so he's going to have a good road position, so we'll have to wait and see how things pan out there. But we talk about all things with Scott. We talk about his WRC program. We talk about him learning and growing in the Australian Rally Championship as part of his family team. And we discuss the Australian Rally Championship in general. We hope you enjoy the podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to Rally Sport Magazine. Scott Pedder, welcome along. It's nice to chat to you at such an exciting stage, I guess, in the lead up to the Rally Gippsland. It's been almost 10 years since you've been in the top class of the ARC. First of all, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Luke, and thanks for having us.
As I say, it's 10 years since you've been in the top class of the ARC. Does it feel like that long? I know you've been there last year at Gippsland in the mighty Renault, but not in the top class for some time. Does it feel like that long?
No, when you get as old as me, mate, it's everything feels like last year.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that we're sort of approaching the 10-year reunion of winning the championship in 14. So it only feels like yesterday, to be honest.
Yeah, and last time, it was a championship winner, like you say, when you're in the top class. That title year, is there anything that sticks out in that championship year that you might be able to apply to the weekend coming?
Obviously, totally different car and different pressures because you're always worried about championship points and that sort of stuff. So you sort of had to have the ability to try and be fast, and strategic as well. So whereas turning up and doing a single event, I suppose you don't have that sort of pressure on your shoulders as much, and you probably enjoyed it a little bit more.
You can just get in and drive.
Before
we get too far into the Gippsland Rally itself, the championship was something that you've been involved with for a number of years in a lot of different formats. Now, the listeners would know about clearly your Australian Championship in 2014. You're an ex-ARC manager, and you're also a Hall of Fame member. So for this next question, it puts you in a unique standpoint to be able to answer it. Where do you think it's at? Where do you think the sport's at in this country and also the ARC?
I think the sport's very strong. I think the fields in state events and club events and that sort of stuff is incredibly strong. I think everyone's sort of come out of COVID going, life's too short. I think there's a little bit of that in the community. So I think people are bringing their cars out and running them and that sort of stuff. They've experienced lockdowns and that sort of thing. So I think that's created a little bit of a need to get that thirst or to fix that thirst for the sport. I think from an ARC point of view, I don't think we've had a stronger period for quite some time. I think we're probably one manufacturer away from it being as good as that sort of early 2000s period, and probably the early to mid 80s, which I think probably would be the two best championship periods. But saying that, good solid set of privateers, great cars, some good events, and a guy like Adrian Coppin who's really running the championship, and with great support from Motorsport Australia, and some great events and some great people in those events and the championship. So I don't think it's the strongest period yet, but gee, it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. You mentioned about manufacturing first and saying we're about one away from being back into that glory stage. From my point of view, manufacturers possibly aren't as important as what they once were, considering the landscape of the car market and everything that's surrounding us in 2023. Do you think of it the same way, that perhaps a few good teams with, say, R5 cars are just as important as manufacturers?
Yeah, I think you certainly could get to a level of the manufacturer and what a manufacturer brings with some good some good privateer teams. I suppose the manufacturers just bring that level of credibility, and they also bring that ability to market the ARC organically through what they do. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a period where we had multiple manufacturers, and I suppose what they delivered was, from a media and marketing point of view, they promoted the ARC, but they also provided pathways for drivers. They brought in cars that then became privateer cars down the track. I mean, there's still Rally Art Evos and Subaru Possum-born cars running around now that just wouldn't have been there without the manufacturers bringing in, and then you got one make series and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's probably optimistic to think that privateers will ever be as good as manufacturers in terms of bringing that organic benefit and growth and presence.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. It would just require a significant brand or a significant person that's got significant money, to be honest, to be able to match that, I think.
Yeah, and a certain person and a certain persona to be able to bring some people with them and to be able to bring such a team like that, because, as you say, the cars that flow down from the manufacturers are really important, because Toyota are looking to bring in the Rally 2 cars when they eventually come. Whether that happens or not, we've got to wait and see. But then that should then bring those GR Yaris AP4s down to the lower rungs of the championship and people that might be able to buy them. So yeah, it's really important like that.
Yeah, and again, I don't underestimate also that career pathway. I mean, it's again, I'm probably biased, but the level of drivers that came out of that sort of 5 to 8 year window where we had Toyota, Mitsubishi, Subaru, etc., and Ford a little bit. But you look at the caliber of drivers and what those drivers then went on to do nationally and internationally. That's not a fluke. That's not hasn't happened just because it's been a particular period and that sort of stuff. That's happened because there's people or manufacturers out there offering full-time drives and that sort of stuff. So the Crockers and the Evans and the Atkinsons and that sort of stuff became household names, if you like, in the sport. Because there was opportunities to develop their careers via manufacturers.
Through your business, Pedders, you've been able to support Harry Bates recently and Troy Dowell as well at the start of the ARC season. Until that manufacturer comes along, is the ARC the spot to be for the two-wheel drive cup, the potential of the upcoming WRX Challenge? Do you think that's the great proving ground as it once was?
Yeah, I think the original RS Challenge was arguably, and you could probably throw in the Corolla Cup, which Simon did. You could probably throw that in the mix, but I think the RS Challenge and again Subaru Australia was a big push. Next season was a big push for that. That was an unbelievably good one make series. You had a car that was, with no disrespect to Subaru, but it was a pretty good car. It was pretty basic. It was not the fastest car in the world, naturally aspirated, but it was just driven by again crazy kids that wanted to and some older kids as well that wanted to prove themselves and had a great prize attached. And again, it had great exposure and that sort of stuff. And that's the perfect ingredient for that. So, congratulations to the ARC and thanks to Subaru and Maximum and Heritage and those sort of people for bringing to life. And it's really good actually that they've kept the car relatively stock and standard. It means that not necessarily the fastest person, but the smartest person will probably win that. And again, I think the prize is going to be pretty good. So I think that'll bring again another level of interest and another career pathway into the ARC for some people, which is great.
No doubt. Last time out, it was Rally Queensland, an event you've obviously done on a number of occasions. Did you follow that one, and do you still follow the series when you're not competing?
Yeah, I follow every rally, every split, every
Yeah.
minute of every day,
You're
and
like the rest of us then.
I've got my people on the ground giving me texts and information. So
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, as you would know, once it gets in your blood, it's hard to leave. So
Mhm.
no, I'm a very very passionate supporter, and I've got all the apps and all the rally safes and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
following the rallies and that sort of thing. And I've got lots of people telling me lots of different information. So no, yeah, I love the sport, love the ARC, and I don't think that's going to go away.
Yeah. Great to hear. In my research for the podcast, I did a bit of searching around Scott Pedder and our archives from Rally Queensland. One thing that I wanted to do while I was there in Queensland was go to the Kandanga Bridge, the famous Kandanga Bridge. Now, a photo came up that you might well remember from 2002 when you guys
Okay.
lost a wheel. There's a photo in our archive of a wheel spearing off the front of your Evo. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Uh, I think I've had so many crashes on Candago. I think at
Yeah.
one point I'd done the stage 9 times and I'd crashed
Yeah.
7 times on the stage
Wow.
or something like that. So I don't know what it is about that stage. Maybe it's just too difficult for my lack of ability. But I actually don't recall that one too well. Would have 2002 would have been an Evo 6.
Yep.
So no doubt I was probably trying to catch people again that were better than me. So Cody's and Simons and Ed's
Yeah.
in a privateer car on a tyre that wasn't a world tyre. So
Yeah.
probably trying too hard and clipped the bridge and lost a wheel. I imagine. I
Yeah.
can't remember it.
That's so good. I have to share the photo with you and we'll put it in the
Yeah.
article that'll accompany the
Okay.
podcast. That
Great. Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for the reminder.
That the family team in that early stage must have been great fun for you guys because you're going rallying with the people you love hanging around with. You're on a lower budget than what you would have been in the years after that with Mitsubishi, but it would have been great to enjoy it with the family.
Oh, look, it was fantastic. Great memories and great friends and it was great to do it with the whole family involved and yeah, even stretching beyond that, we had a couple of events there and potentially even a full year where it was myself, Mark, and young Willie Orders. So so that was 3 cars. So I'm not sure the budget was less than what Mitsubishi was spending, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was pretty expensive, but
Yeah.
no, we had a great time and we had some great fun, but probably looking back in hindsight, from a pure competition point of view and the ability to win point of view, when I stepped away from the family team and went to Rally Art, I got a glimpse of particularly with the tyres and the car and the setup and all the support that you get being a manufacturing team. You sort of got a glimpse of what you don't have when you're a privateer. So probably in hindsight, if I was going to do it again and I was going to recommend it to a young Scott Pedder, I'd probably say, whilst the family thing was fantastic and the team was fantastic, if you really want to make a name for yourself and a career out of rallying, you probably need to step away and either lease a car with a team or try and get into a manufacturer team earlier.
Yeah. And it's those learnings that are important as you go along. Now, I want to go in a lot more detail at some stage over a bit of a longer chat about the whole career once it's all sort of said and done. It might never be said and done. You know what rallying's like.
If you ask my wife, it's never going to be done.
Yeah. When you evolve as a driver from a young driver who's clearly got so much speed to learning the craft of how to actually win rallies, the first ARC win and actually getting over the hump, was there anything that you learnt that really set that in stone in terms of, yes, I can win rallies, and then you go and do it?
Again, I was fortunate enough to, suppose, rally in a period where, where if you didn't drive literally 100%, you were 10th. I actually remember a South Australian rally where I can just describe it as probably a half spin in the stall. I think I lost, I don't know, 20 or 25 seconds trying to start the car and put it in first gear, and we were running, I think, second or something behind Atco, and then at the end of that stage we were 9th, and we couldn't get back. And then we set a string of pretty good stages, but I think we finished 7th, and I think we were 17 or 18 seconds or something ridiculous off first. So I sort of grew up in a period where speed was the first thing that you're trying to find.
Mm-hmm.
And then I suppose, if I'm honest with myself about the year that we won the 2014 championship, really it was a 2-horse race. It was myself and Brendo, who were probably, similar speed, roughly similar car. Arguably I probably had a bit more support and a little bit more testing and that sort of stuff than Brendo. And whereas my car was an R3 car, his car was probably a G2 car. So maybe it was similar, same. So it took a bit of a change of mindset, to go, okay, well, the speed thing's okay. I think I've got the speed there to win when I need to. Even though Brendo was very fast, but in particular parts of the country and particular stages, I sort of thought I had the edge from a speed point of view. So it was a different mindset to sort of go, right, I've actually got to concentrate on winning rallies, and it changes your notes, it changes your mindset, changes your approach. So I must admit I'm probably more comfortable in the previous example where I like that sort of feeling where you've got to push. And hence why I loved going to WRC too, because that was eye opening in terms of the speeds that you've got to go to be relatively competitive.
The Gippsland Rally upcoming, it's in the sort of Traralgon area where you would have done a bit of VRC stuff early doors for you in the 2000s sort of period. Do you remember those roads from back then? And when you were there last year, did you think, oh yeah, I've rallied on this bit of road this time?
Yeah,
this time?
It's funny you should say that. The brain still works in some weird ways. I can't remember my kids' names some days, but I can remember bits of road from 20, 25 years ago. Stony Creek. I've done lots of rallies up there, and I think we might have even won a few rallies in the state series back in the late 90s in Win TV rallies and that sort of stuff around that area. I actually do remember some of the roads from last year. You need to be careful though, because sometimes you think you remember a road and it's not the road that you remember. So you need to sort of forget the brain and actually listen to the pace notes that have been spat out. So, but it's a great area. It's a great event. I think it's a very interesting rally. It's probably a rally of two halves. They've got the first day. I would say the roads are quite similar, even though you've got two up and two down. They're very fast generally, quite wide, mix of good gravel and then some red clay thrown in, which is going to be interesting to get rain. And then Sunday's totally different. It's sort of more of a Canberra spec, in between the gum trees, more twisty, difficult, more bumpy creek crossings and that sort of stuff. So and then you got the cool little boys Bellsdale track and that sort of stuff, and the autocross track thrown in as well, which will be great for the spectators as well. So it's a good event. Yeah,
definitely. Is that why you chose the Gippsland Rally to come back in a Skoda Fabia R5? The fact that you did it last year and you've got notes rather than say a Canberra first of all?
Yeah, it's a combination of that and probably easier to do your home rally. And certainly having done the rally before, and the Clio. I think we were just getting to the stage where we were just driving it too fast to try and keep up with the modern machinery, and it probably wasn't getting the attention that it did in the past and that sort of stuff. So it's a very, very good car, it became a bit brittle. So we thought, we can probably go and do the Clio again and get a reasonable result again, potentially. Probably spend half the amount of money that we're going to spend on the Skoda or have a crack with the Skoda and see how go out and have some fun and see where we're at.
You drove the Skoda on Monday, a few days before, than when we're recording this now. What did you take out of it? And did you put in the 2016 setup straight away and it was all good, or did you have to start from a different point?
No, it was interesting. I got my old setup out of the files that I still had for Portugal, which was probably the only event that year that was anything relevant. The Finland setup or the Poland setup they're very different to what you would run in Australia. But Portugal, I sent that to Lane at Race Talk, and pretty much he was gobsmacked at how close that was to the setup that he had in the car for Shane.
Wow. Yeah.
Or almost identical. So hence, on Monday, I actually, I've always been able to jump in a car. I do lots of things wrong as a driver, but one of the things that I've been able to do quite well in my career is been able to jump in a car relatively quickly and get up to pace quickly. So yeah, I jumped into that car, and within literally a few corners, it all came back to me. And I had Ben Searcy with me, and he was a little bit surprised that the 47-year-old bloke next to him was going as quick as I was. So, but which is good. But yeah, it felt like an old glove, and the road was actually quite tricky too, which sort of made it all the better as well.
Mm-hmm. Prior to the event, will you get another chance to drive it? For example, in the test on Thursday.
Yeah, test on Thursday. I think the event's trying to work on some additional roads because I think they've been oversubscribed for testing, which is normally the case. You know, particularly when you've got myself and Troy Dow and stuff with a bit high desire to do some testing with new cars and that sort of stuff. I think there's a little bit of pressure on the event to find a better solution or another solution there. So hopefully that comes through and we can, not have to wait around for an hour for a run, that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'm sure that the people involved in that will get it done, and we can have a good test on Thursday.
How many Ks approximately did you do in WA?
I think about 40, 45, somewhere around there, which was good. As again, I said, the road was quite difficult and started to chew up, which is normal for West Australian soil. So it sort of got to the point where it was a little bit a bit of a waste compared to what we're going to be running in Victoria, which is a very, very swept sort of road. So I didn't do any change in setup, to be honest. Just drove around and got to the point where I wasn't learning a hell of a lot. So I said to Elaine, I know I can do up to 50. Let's cut it short and you owe me 10 Ks for next week.
Yeah, fantastic. You're seated fourth on the list. There's only Australian champions ahead of you, which is an amazing thing to be a part of for such an event that's, gaining year on year. Do you think that's too high for as you say, a 47-year-old ex-champion, or do you think you can match it?
It's a good question. I hope you're wrong. I hope it's three places too low, to be honest. But I mean, it's I'm very appreciative of being car fourth. It's actually my favourite number after Tony Lockett from St Kilda.
Yeah,
so I don't think I've ever lost a rally from number 4, which is another little bit of tidbit. No, I think 4 is a great road position to have, and hopefully I can give it the credit that it deserves and be around there or higher come Sunday afternoon.
Do you think you can win, or when you get the helmet on, do you think, I could really challenge here, or is it going to be a stage by stage thing once you work out where the speed's at?
Look, certainly Monday I felt like I was going as quick as I had been in WRC2, and certainly if the speed from WRC2 comes, then I think that's probably a pace that's going to surprise a few people. But testing speed and rally speed is very different. Obviously, a new co-driver, even though Glenn's going to be amazing and he'll jump in and be bang on the money from the word go. But that's just something new as well that we've just got to get used to. So fortunately we've got not hugely long stages. So if I'm 10 seconds or worse behind on stage 1, then there is some time to have a different approach and potentially come back. But if the notes go through the brain well enough, there's no doubt the car can do it. It's just whether I can get back to some old talent.
Speaking of Glenn, you were with Chris Randall last year at the Gippsland Rally, and when you've done ARCs previously, what was the reasoning behind going to Glenn? Clearly, you guys would have known each other for a number of years, and I don't think, off the top of my head, you've had the chance to work together. Was there a specific reason why you chose him?
I just wanted someone that's been in that sort of machinery before, and I must admit, Glenn was sort of part of the deal coming off, so he's obviously got some relationship in with Race Talk and that sort of stuff. So, and really, it was just the other bit of it was just I just would love to get Glenn out in the forests. He's doing some great things with his business and that sort of stuff and expanding. So. He actually rang me and was asking me some business advice and that sort of stuff, and that's where it's sort of all started. not sure whether it'll be one event or more than that, but if it's just one, then that's fine as well. It's pretty cool. So you know, I've obviously followed his career for a long time with ATCO and that sort of stuff, and he's always considered him a good friend, and he's been a good guy to have a few beers with after many events and that sort of stuff. So Mark used him, had him co-drive for a couple of events back in the day. So and reckons he's one of the best. So it'll be great to have him sitting alongside me.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be good to see him back where he belongs in that co-driver's seat. Generally speaking, is the door ajar for some more rallies at the end of the year? You touched on it very briefly there. There might be some more stuff with Glenn. Is that stuff with Glenn this year in the ARC?
I don't think I think I've got too many work clashes to do the next two, but you know, I've sort of, even though I'm older, I reckon I'm fitter than what I was, and that sort of stuff. So certainly, if an opportunity come up around next year, you know, there is that potential. I still think, you know, and hopefully next weekend I can cement that in my mind and some other people's minds that, you know, there is some fire still there in the old fella, and hopefully, you know, next year we can pull something together. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm also realistic. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and I'm probably old enough to not want to do something by halves anymore. I'm running out of years, so I don't want to waste any more years, and that's why if it's not the right, it doesn't have the right car, right co-driver, right team, right budget, then it's really no point doing anything.
And I assume you're still taking total enjoyment out of driving the car when you get in it, particularly such an amazing car like the Skoda is.
Yeah, but it's funny, you know, some of the things you enjoy about rallying, you still enjoy like you were an 18-year-old kid, and then still the, you know, the nervousness, the nervous moments, the stupid things that you think about and where your brain goes and all that sort of stuff, that hasn't changed, unfortunately. So it's yeah, you don't change over 30 years. The things that annoy you about rallying, like lining up for recce and all that sort of stuff, that still annoys you. Yeah, so it's been fun. It's been a blast sort of coming back. I wish I could go back in time and put this brain in a young Scott Pedder's head. That would be nice.
Yeah. It's all those learnings and those lessons from all around the world that are important to apply. Something that's just popped in my head now is something I could have asked a little bit earlier on in terms of the WRC2 speed. When you went to the WRC2, it was your first time in R5 cars and the like. Did you have to step up a lot? And sort of what speed is that compared to a top level ARC fight?
I probably, if I look back at those 2 years, you know, I made the error of which a lot of people do, and tried to do the first year a little bit more on shoestring. So, you know, chose an RMC, which was a sort of really a second or third level team, to be honest. Ran the DMAC tyre, which was good in about 10% of the conditions, but terrible in the events that I chose. So made lots of errors there, and then we got to Finland. And probably the biggest error I made is I tried to be different. I tried to go faster. I was you know, very worried about speed and competition, and I probably didn't sort of smell the roses and actually enjoy it. So when we got to Finland, which was the fourth event I think of that year, I just sort of said, no, I'm not gonna leave Finland having not enjoyed it, because, you know, that's the Mecca. It's like the thing that I'd always wanted to do. So I just took a different approach and just really enjoyed it. I also got some support from Malcolm at M Sport with the car and some setup and that sort of stuff. And also the DMAC tyre was probably a little bit better in Finland than what it was in Portugal and Italy. So we obviously had a very good result in Finland. I think I'm still the best non-European driver or something on debut. Someone told me that obscure stat after the event. And then the following year was the opposite. You know, I got a great team with Autotech and Ken Skidmore. You know, the Skoda was a better car than the Fiesta, and then I put the Michelin tyres on it, and literally automatically, you know, the speed was there. You know, I don't think I was driving any faster than what I was previous year, but I had the machinery. And I think we were second fastest after 2 stages in Portugal, which was the first run in the Skoda. So, but back to your question about the speed, the speed at WRC2 level, particularly when you've got locals involved, which Finland, is just nuts. Like the speed. I don't want to disrespect the ARC, but the speed at that top level would be seconds a kilometre faster than what an ARC speed is all day, every day. It's you can't stop it. So which puts you in good stead, and that's one of the reasons why we helped Harry is just you want to give him those sort of people who have got some ability, obviously, to give him a snapshot of that speed, and he got that. He got that with Hayden. But essentially, when I was competing in Finland, for instance, in that 2015, there was 10 Haydens,
Yes.
and they were also in. The regional car was still alive back in that year as well. So you were competing against World Rally cars with a smaller restrictor. So it was a great eye-opening experience. And again, I would have loved to have done it earlier with a PWRC campaign, because I think it would have improved my driving beyond that.
And like with everything, you've got to have something to aim for. And if there's somebody in the WRC from this part of the world, you can really see the target and you can really see the speed you actually have to be. It's like when Hayden Paddon goes back to the New Zealand Championship. Those guys are ever increasing their speed because they've got that target to try and match.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's just a different level. I remember, funny story. I remember doing Poland. I think it was the second year, and I'd come from the rally before, whatever that was, and I was servicing next to Teemu Suunanen and at testing, and we got along really, really well. He's a really nice kid with his co-driver Mika Markula, and I sort of said, how you been for the last 5-6 weeks and that sort of stuff. He goes, I've done 5 rallies in those 6 weeks. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, no, well, I've done 5 rallies in 6 weeks between. So I'd left the rally before, gone home, had a few beers, done some business, come back, and that was, and that was ultimately the difference, is that in that rally he smashed me by about a minute and a half in the first half a day, and then by the time I'd sort of been able to get back into it, it was just all gone. There was no. So at that level, those guys are just in the car all day, every day, all weekend. They're doing same as Atco did back in 2003 and 4. They're just doing as many rallies as they can, because the more you hit the ball, the better you hit the ball.
Exactly. Scott, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you taking some time out of the busy work schedule for you. I know it'll ramp up with both work and, of course, the rally prep. So thanks again, and I appreciate your support for rallying. Obviously, Pedders has been there forever and a day, so looking forward to seeing you out for some more rallies and some more Pedders support over the years.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.